Hello everybody, I'm Kim Conchie, Chief Executive of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, and here we are in the Cornwall Channel TV studios in Bodmin on one of those days that you hope everybody sees Cornwall in this frame. It is absolutely wonderful morning here on Bodmin Moor. And with me today is Joe Healey, who's the Managing Director of Trading at Healeys Cyder Farm, which is itself a fantastic a visitor attraction in Cornwall, but more importantly from a business point of view, it's the home of Rattler Cider and now Rattler Gin and a whole range of other commercial enterprises. So Joe, very warm welcome. Thank you for your time this morning and looking forward to catching up with some of your plans for this year as we emerge from pretty tough time, I guess, over the last few months. So very warm welcome and thank you.
Thank you, pleasure to be here.
And I hardly recognise you because last time we met, only last week, you had a big bushy beard, which had been obviously growing for months for charitable purposes. So obviously you've reached your target, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to have said that on Monday night. So basically I said, okay, start of the last lockdown, our industry, hospitality industry, has been through a hell of a 9 months at that stage. So, there's people in our industry that are really badly affected by this. So there's a great charity, Hospitality Action, that exists purely to support those in our industry. So I said, right, 1st of January, I'm not shaving until I can have a pint in my local. So obviously at that stage, I had no idea how long that could be. I could be another 6 months now, who knew, but it was a bit of a risk. So for the last 3.5 months, I've not shaved. I've had a baby in that time. So my wife has been distraught. We can't have any baby photos yet, but finally on Monday, we managed to get out to Falmouth and had a pint, which was very welcome indeed. And it was just so good to feel the joy from people to be out again. It's such a basic thing that we just all took for granted, this time 12 months ago, or I guess 18 months ago now. And it was just so lovely to be out and have a pint and then the next day have a shave.
Absolutely fantastic. So off came the beard, out came the photography equipment to take the new baby pictures. Well, many congratulations on all of those things. That's been great. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason I was with you last week at a socially distanced outside the farm at Healeys Cyder Farm was because one of the things you did during the pandemic, apart from raise money for that charity, was to convert your gin line to hand sanitizer, and that earned you one of the High Sheriff's Unsung Business Hero Awards last week, which again, many congratulations. And talk us through that sort of little pandemic episode.
Yeah, and it was great to receive that. It was a very odd phase of life and something that's never going to forget about, really. So it was at a time when so much uncertainty. As a business, about 40% of our business kind of just disappeared overnight in terms of the on-site hospitality, but also all of the pubs and restaurants, the 1,000 or so accounts that we supply, just got switched off. There was a huge amount of uncertainty. There was a real worry as well, personally, from a health perspective, from all of your staff and all your customers, and it was a real, shell-shock moment, really. So we obviously were taking use of the furlough scheme, which was introduced, which was a relief. And then we got approached by the hospital. One of their lab technicians used to work for us in our lab. So he knew that we obviously had a distillery, and we'd recently launched our Rattler Gin. So we'd had quite a good amount of PR from that. So kind of it was known. And he said, look, guys, we have no sanitizer. We're out. All of the supplies are completely dried up. Is there anything you can do with your distillery? And we said, well, we have no idea. So we actually worked really closely with them, which was great. We kind of co-developed, following the World Health Organization kind of hand sanitizer recipe, if you like, basically converting our craft distillery on site, which is designed to make, we make England's oldest whiskey, and we started distilling in 2000 with our apple brandies, etc. And high quality craft products, into a 24/7 mass production unit to try and desperately get some hand sanitizer to the hospital. So we actually, we unfurloughed 3 staff so that we could then run for 24 hours a day, which again at the time we were donating this stuff for free, but at a time when 40% of our income had gone, we're now going to take on costs, unfurlough staff to supply something for free to the NHS. It was quite a contradiction of your normal business mentality, but at the time it was like, it's absolutely just a no-brainer. As soon as we knew we could do it, we gladly did, and really pleased that we did. And it was probably 8 weeks until all the likes of kind of the Ineos and all that lot came on stream.
Okay, yeah.
But even we've mentioned my new addition to the family. So we were in hospital a couple of weeks ago, and the doctors and nurses and midwives, amazing team. And all you want to do at that moment is thank them, because they've just done this wonderful thing. And actually, they just started thanking us, because I had my rattler face mask on in there and stuff, and then they started putting two and two together, Healey the surname, and it was amazing. We were walking around with this lovely Calvados type smell on our hands. And it was for 8 weeks, and it was just, which is lovely that it really made a difference to those people. And they still
that's
remember
Cornwall at its best, isn't it? Where you're thanking them and they're thanking you, and everybody's sort of collaboratively working together. So interesting times. So like all great businesses, you've made some really positive changes during this difficult time of the pandemic. So now hopefully we are getting back to looking forward to a great summer. I know you've got all sorts of changes in place. So, what are your aspirations for this year and forward from here, Joe? Yeah,
I mean, it's really interesting. Our business, the biggest challenge we've had is what's going to happen, the predictability, because we've come for the last 35, 40 years. We've kind of got so much data, and we kind of knew the trends, and we knew how it would look and when it would happen and what sort of scale and the rate of sale, and we kind of knew all of that. It was quite clear, so we could quite accurately predict what's going to happen. And all of that has completely gone out the window. Even reopening on Monday, we're Easter holidays technically, obviously only outdoor hospitality. How many people are down here because they couldn't actually come on the Sunday night? So you have no idea what's going to happen on the day and the next day, and even the May date. So kind of budgeting and forecasting is so difficult. But where we've basically ended up is where kind of our business has sustainably and sort of organically grown consistently. The last 12 months, it's kind of done that. But actually now if you had projected and continued a continual line, we're still expecting this year now to be where we would have been. Okay. Which now is going to be interesting, because you've actually kind of missed that year of growth, where you kind of you build in capability for growth. So we're now going from kind of 2 years ago to kind of where we would have been anyway, but without that middle year of learning.
Yeah.
So,
but that middle year of learning, it's interesting how resilient so many Cornish businesses had to be, and that sort of agile approach that you've taken, that you've described there, that you've now got to sort of be far more alert to. It's difficult to plan in that sense, so you've just got to be set up to take up that sort of culture. And actually, Cornwall's got a long track record of success in this sort of more agile pop-up, whatever you want to call it, 21st century sort of way of working, and that really what you're describing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll always go back to my schoolboy days, rugby. Had my rugby coach, Mr. Whitmore. He always used to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we come to a line out or a scrum or whatever. And, I've kind of always used that in business. And we had a business model on site which was not broken by any means, and we never would have looked at touching that and changing that. COVID forced us to change it, and we went from this kind of free entry model, which would be anybody arrive whenever they want, en masse. If it rains, there's queues, there's car parks, there's bedlam. And at the end of the day, you kind of, scrape through, and the staff is shattered, but you kind of, the numbers are good, and you kind of, quite pleased. At the end of the day, you're quite pleased. But actually now we've completely changed that, and it was also limited access, which was interesting. So you could only get the full access and the full experience of the farm if you then bought a guided tour previously. Now we've actually changed it, so we've got a fairly nominal entrance fee that you have to pre-book, and you get slotted and arrival times. So you've staggered that arrival time from 9 a.m. through to 6 p.m. So you get a constant flow of people, 20 people every 10 minutes, and operationally, it's so much nicer for everybody because there's no queues, there's no pinch points. It's kind of just this lovely flow all through the day. And obviously, the other big benefit from a customer's perspective is whereas before it was limited access, free entry, limited access. Now, nominal entrance fee, but you've got the whole farm. So from a brand experience, you're going now in through the museum, you're going into our distillery, you're going into underground cellars, walking amongst England's oldest whiskey, up into our production, seeing 6,000 bottles an hour being produced and 500 kegs on our new keg line that was installed last year. You're getting so much more from your visit that from a brand perspective, the view of us as a business and of the brands and how we operate is so much better that all of those people are now going out and they're telling their friends and they're going to the pubs and, oh, I've been there, do you know what, they're bottling, it's so much better that actually the knock-on benefit, commercially it works really well, but actually the knock-on broader benefit and the brand benefit, I think is where the real value lies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's for people visiting the farm, which is fantastic. And then your hero brand way beyond the borders of the farm is obviously Healeys Cyder. And so how have sales of that been? Presumably in kegs in the on-trade is the most efficient way of serving it. But
so yes and no. So our distribution, our off-trade distribution, so supermarkets. So recently we became national with all 4 supermarkets, with our kind of core 500ml bottle, which was very good timing. So through pandemic, off-trade sales, benefited. There's no doubt about it. And people couldn't go to the pub, so they couldn't go anywhere. They kind of just had a drink at home. So off-trade sales benefited. So having that national distribution, without doubt, helped keep us going at a time when some businesses that didn't have that, if their mix was different, really would have struggled. And then I think that we're really lucky again in Cornwall, because Cornwall then as a county, without doubt, benefited in the summer. Anybody you speak to in hospitality or generally accommodation, whatever it is, last summer was very, very busy, and staycations, and we were expecting certainly the same, if not more, again this year.
Yeah, I think for all sorts of reasons, not only pandemic, but Brexit and people wanting to fly less and all of these sort of things are playing.
And it's a blooming good place to come.
Absolutely amazing place to come. Yes,
as you say, on a day like today, you go down to Carnot's Cove and there's classics. It is just stunning, and there's so much good Cornish food and drink, the standard of our restaurants, the attractions, the things to do, the places to go, and the people. The Cornish friendly smile. It is becoming a genuine standalone, on its own 2 feet, worldwide destination for people to come. And we've got great events like the G7, obviously this summer, which I think will do nothing but cement that even more, and tour of Britain. These are
and the tall ships in Falmouth in August,
exactly.
and for a while earlier in the year, Monday night was like Cornwall night on TV, wasn't it? Rick Stein, Cornwall and Devon coastline, and then
John
Fishing Life. So it was. So I think we've got. Not by accident, a lot of things are going right for Cornwall, and I think a lot of businesses, yours included, are sort of getting this clean and green growth message out there. These days, business and what young people want from business is all about good products first and foremost, and profitable business which are sustainable. And the whole interest in sort of sustainability, provenance, traceability, all of these things are playing to Cornwall's values and the brands of some of the leading businesses here, aren't they?
Absolutely. And on site we're continually, consciously pressing ahead with that. So we've got our own turbine, we've got solar panels. The way that we're having to do it, but we do it anyway. When Dad first moved to the site, it's kind of on top of the hill. It's quite a windy site. First thing he did was plant 20,000 trees to be a windbreak. But obviously now, today, that would be held up as a hero thing to do with carbon tackling and blah, blah, blah. But, the apple trees, the vineyard that we planted, all of that stuff is not only is it producing apples and grapes and wind shelter and doing functional things for us, but actually, you look at the carbon sequential effect of all of that combined, it's massive.
Yeah.
But it's just what we not doing it to try and get recognition
brownie
for
points
it.
or anything. It's just a normal business process of, and I think you're at the forefront. But I think so many Cornish businesses feel that way about the pride and place that we have working and living here, and there will be some other benefits of the pandemic. The acceptability of working from home, for example, will mean that either people can come and work here for other companies elsewhere, or set up their businesses here now. So we're going to see long term, I think, some continuation of this sort of Cornwall's values being in the forefront.
Even this morning it was on BBC News. Newquay is the hottest property destination in the country.
Really?
So, and that's just a sign, for a while it's been Cornwall, but now they're specifying that Newquay is. and it is. I mean, yesterday morning I got up at 6 o'clock, sunrise, beautiful, flat. Went out for a quick row.
Yeah,
went to work.
fantastic.
And that's that Cornish lifestyle.
Yes,
and
it is.
And as you say, you can now work remotely. And again, I think the long-term benefit for Cornwall is our kind of seasonal huge influx. Well, if we're now getting more people live here all year round, the shoulders do lift up, and from a business perspective, it's going to be such a benefit. And conversely, then the city centres, I'd be very concerned for them and that commuter business that they would rely on. Yeah. If all of that's kind of being dispersed, Birmingham, so on the same article I was reading this morning, only 18% of Birmingham properties that have been listed since January have actually sold. So there's a huge glut of people wanting to sell, nobody wanting to buy. And they're all kind of looking at Newquay, Cornwall.
It'll be fascinating over the next decades how cities have to reinvent their living and business models to get people to cluster in those ways. I mean, it's just been a whole change, isn't there? So,
which again, I think we'll be benefiting from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So those benefits then, so we've just opened up. You've got exciting plans for this year. So sort of special events, or now you've got these slotted time, is it just busy every single day? Or
I mean, yeah, so the core business, yeah, absolutely. We've kind of got the plan for that. In terms of the event side, we've got, we tried to launch so we do a festival on site. We've done one for 7 or 8 years now, the Little Orchard Cider Festival, which is great, end of season, great fun. And then last year, ironically, we wanted to launch a kind of Rattler specific party in effect. And it was going to go out in like Easter of 2020. Obviously, pandemic forced that to close, and it was then going to be Easter this year, which again has been, so we then pushed it back to early July, which in theory could happen. Now, whether there's stuff like vaccine passports and all that's being talked about at powers that be, but in theory, we've got a pre-season party and a post-season party, both from the farm, which would be great. But the core business, the ongoing stuff in terms of the admissions and stuff, that the interesting thing that's done is that's really informed some of our investment decisions now over the next 18 months. And we've got a big project on site which kind of links with expansion of kind of production. So it's kind of a new pressing facility. We're getting more tanks and more capacity to cater for the growth. But actually we're building in some bespoke tourism related stuff as well. So, but not as tourism, but brand experience. So on these points I was saying earlier, how can we really bring our brand to life for people? Because what we've got at the farm is basically our flagship store. And if you were to go to some of the people that do it really well, like even like the Heineken experience, for example, it's such a way of bringing the brand to life. And the beautiful thing with us is we then back that up with the authenticity of it can link into our actual production hall. You can get the tractor through the orchard. So you can kind of tie, but because the Heineken experience side of it is great, but it's in their old brew house. So actually it is just a tourist attraction. So you don't see any actual production. No. Whereas I think with us, if we get it right, we can kind of combine the two things and have a really quite unique proposition at the farm. And then the 5-year plan with the vineyard, really exciting. We tasted the wine for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I mean obviously I'm going to say this, but it is stunning. And that's from 100% Cornish grown grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Cheval Blanc, just outside Truro. So there's 12 acres, 13 acres of vines there. And it's got this feel. It's a 200-acre farm, and it's got 100-acre woodland, and there's a long lane to get up to the top, and then there's this old disused kind of cattle shed at the top, which is south-facing, overlooking a vineyard. You sort of think, wow, that's interesting. What could we do with that site over the next 5 years? So
am I looking out for wine in a year or two with the Healeys name, or is there a?
Well, can I say it's definitely from us. Yeah. We've got a name and a brand and a proposition that is being developed, and we're hoping to release a small amount this summer. And then the next season, so the coming season's harvest is expected to be double last year's.
Okay.
But the small release this year is also because we want to keep some back so that we've got stuff that's longer in bottle, longer maturation and stuff. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Okay. So I think that's a real teaser there from Joe to look out for, watch this space, as they say, isn't it?
Yep.
So Joe, that's been absolutely fantastic and really great to know from a Cornwall point of view, such a go-ahead business. You know, I think in this sector, which so many of us love, of the food and drink, which we've been preeminent at, and have got to keep the Cornwall brand at the top of that side of things. You know, but as a tourist attraction and as a range of products, not just the Healeys Cyder now, but the gin, the whiskey, the Calvados, and the wine to come, which we shall look out for with great anticipation. Thank you very much for your time this morning. That's been a really good insight, and you know, almost by luck rather than judgment, to find you without the big beard, and in the week that you've opened and had a pint, and you know, the cider farm looking forward to being, you know, a leading attraction once again for this year. So thank you very much for your time, and really glad to have caught you at this very important moment. And congratulations on the new addition to the family as well.
Thanks for
thank you everybody for listening. That's been absolutely really insightful, and really great to hear from Joe. You know, that insight to one of Cornwall's preeminent food and drink businesses, and really go ahead businesses, and I think a lesson for all of us, that even in a time when, as Joe said, you know, the pandemic closed down the whole hospitality industry, there are things that one can do. There are things that you can pivot into and spend that perhaps more downtime thinking and planning ahead. So I hope that's been insightful from a business point of view to listeners as well. So from Joe Healey and from me, Kim Conchie, Chief Executive of Cornwall Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for listening. Thanks to Shane and the team here at Cornwall Channel TV once again for this wonderful studio, and look forward to seeing you all soon.